What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. Today, I'm going to do a quick solo episode talking about all things AI in the workspace. So if you are a current business owner, this episode is going to be important to you because I'm going to dive into a couple strategies to be cautious of when using AI inside of your business, as well as a couple areas you might be lacking that AI can actually solve and improve for you. Then, if you are a young founder still trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, I have a couple business tips using AI on how you can get a very, very quick version of your product out to the public and also offer your services to business owners who might be really, really slow and scared to adopt AI inside of their businesses. So that's kind of the main topic of today's episode. If you enjoy it, please share it with a friend. You guys are my best marketing here on the Get Over Yourself podcast. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to shoot me an email. All of my links will be in the episode description. So with that being said, let's jump into today's episode. So to start off, I want to call out all of my entrepreneurs who've not quite figured out what they want to do with inside of their lives yet. We're obviously living in a crazy, crazy time. I look back just, 3 years ago now, where OpenAI first released ChatGPT on the market. I remember the first time I used it, I was sitting in my college dorm with one of my good friends, Caden. He's my roommate at the time, and I hadn't heard of it yet. And he calls me upstairs. He goes, "Look at this thing, dude." And so he pulls out his laptop and he starts showing me ChatGPT and what it was at the time. Very, very rudimentary models. It wasn't good for much, but it showed kind of the complexity of what could happen. And so I sat down and he showed me what it could do. And he was like, he typed in a little prompt, something around, write me a love poem to the girl I'm interested in dating. And then he typed in some random name and output a love poem. And at first I didn't really understand it. I thought it was just some kind of fun, like gimmicky, like, hey, create some kind of sentence for me. And I didn't understand the concept. But as I did more and more research behind what it was building in to be, I recognized how powerful of a tool was going to be. And obviously that's when I jumped in full force and started working on Interval. And it's just amazing to think how fast things have accelerated in the past 3 years in the world of AI. Over time, have obviously looked at it in different lights and fashions, and large language models aren't anything necessarily new. They are becoming more evolutionary and better every single day. But in the grand scheme of it, this concept isn't new, but it is becoming more available for everyone in the entire world, and it's moving very, very quick. Something that struck me, I'm a big fan, if anyone has listened here on the Get Over Yourself podcast, if you've listened to the All In podcast, I love listening to their episodes. Prominent business leaders, prominent investors, science gurus, and they're very intellectual on different topics regarding business and science. And one of the co-founders of the show, David Sachs, he actually was called under the Trump presidency to go and be in the cabinet for all things AI. So I don't know his official title. He's in charge of all things AI in the United States, though. What interests me is a topic so new and so fascinating has already struck the higher ups. And every single day in the news, you read about some latest model that's coming out in the world of AI and new countries that are popping up with their own models. You saw a couple about a month or two ago now. DeepSeek, they came out with their model and it rocked the entire world because they said they were doing it for 1/20th of the cost and it was working just as well. There's a lot of things that you can dive into with that. And that's not for today's episode. But the moral of the story is AI is moving very, very quick. World leaders recognize the power behind it. And I think it's at the point where you need to recognize it as well. So once again, if you're one of these young entrepreneurs who's trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, a quick and easy answer that everyone should be talking about in some form or fashion right now is artificial intelligence. There's many different ways you can look at it. You can go more the technical route and start up a software company harnessing the power of artificial intelligence and how fast you can move with it. In a minute here in the episode, I'll also offer a couple ideas that I've had for businesses. I'm more on the marketing and helping other business owners on the AI side. But what I really want to focus on right now is there's a couple different tools on the market. Heck, there's a couple new ones released every single day. Google's just released theirs. I believe it's called Firebase. There's plenty of tools where you can use them with very, very limited technical knowledge and be able to pump out a MVP or a minimum viable product in a matter of a couple hours to a couple days before you can start getting paid users. And so a couple of the ones that you might have heard on the news recently, seen on Twitter or I guess X or LinkedIn or anything, there's a few that are more prominent right now. I personally am a fan of Bolt. I'll include that in the episode description down below. There's other ones called Replit, Lovable. There's a bunch on the market now. The basic premise behind the entire concept is you sit down, just if you've used ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of these other large language models, you sit down, you give it a prompt and you say, this is what I'm trying to build. And it will go out, write all the code for you, and build that exact product. And the key to all of this is you have to be really, really good at prompting. If you're not good at prompting, you're not going to be able to actually make this thing work. If you're very generic in your terms, if you don't give it enough details, if you give it too much vague or fluff behavior or wording, it's not going to work very well. But if you can get in and give it very, very specific instructions and tell it exactly what you want it to do, it works incredibly well. And just for an example on some different things you can do, you can take it as far as making early MVPs for an actual business. I personally know people who've created entire CRMs. I know people who have made apps that track different calorie intakes. I know other people who have made their early MVPs for shop management software, point of sale software. There's all different directions you can take it. And if you have not struck your business idea yet, these are the tools that you should be using to get these in front of your customers or your prospective customers. Get them these tools inside of their hands quickly and validate your idea before you waste a ton of time on it. The interesting thing about software, if you did all things right in the past, the kind of step-by-step process you take while launching, I guess not even just software, but any company, the step-by-step process you should take is you recognize the pain point. You go and you see there's some kind of issue inside the world and you can go and solve it through either your physical product, your service, your software, whatever it is. You go and find the physical pain point. The next step is you actually go build out a quick little MVP of it. You put that MVP inside the hands of your customers to go actually validate it. And then if it works, if people are willing to use it, you go out and you build it up, you scale it, and you start selling and making it nicer. Obviously, if you don't have validation, if you don't have people who are saying, yes, I would pay you X amount of dollars every single month or one time for this product, if you don't have that, you don't have a business. If you don't have paying users, you don't have a business. And so what I recommend to anyone out there who is looking at starting a company right now in 2025, go and get a very, very base knowledge of some of these tools. Once again, I recommend Bolt. Very, very simple, very, very cheap. I think my subscription is around $20 a month and I've never come close to maxing it out. And go find some pain point. If you already have an idea that you've been kind of rummaging back and forth inside of your head, go build a very, very easy MVP, a very, very simple thing you could put in the hands of your potential customers and say, hey, we play around with this. Do you think this would actually solve your issues with X, Y, or Z? And once they have it in their hands and they can see just like a little mock-up of it and see the potential, if they're willing to pay you then, or if they have some kind of contract in place where they're willing to pay you in the near future, now it's go time. Now you can actually start diving in the weeds. Why I love this concept is in the past, I feel like, and I was guilty of this, you go so hard on the ideas inside of your head that you think are going to be multi-million dollar companies. You think you have the next best idea. You think you're the next Bezos or Zuckerberg. You have these thoughts as a young entrepreneur, and you feel like your journey is going to be the next one they write stories about and articles. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't work out. Your idea was nothing. Nobody was willing to pay for it. And you wasted a ton of time, resources, and money on the product. Nowadays, you can get these products out quickly by inputting a couple lines, a couple prompts into Bolt or Replit or whatever one you're using. It will literally make the app for you. It won't work perfectly. All we're looking for in the early stage is it has to work a little bit so you can show it to these potential customers. Then once you get the validation from those potential customers, when you put it in their hands, when they played around with it, when they saw the potential, if they are willing to put money into your bank account, you now know you have an idea that is worth paying for and you can go out and build it. And I don't think it's quite there. We've tested it inside of Interval. We use AI for probably about 50 to 60% of our code right now, which may seem like a lot, but to some businesses is next to nothing still. And then on other businesses, it is a lot. And some businesses still use less than 10% of their code written by AI. The one thing that we found personally inside of Interval is it is very good if you give it a core structure. You have to give it a lot of information up front so it produces the right feedback on the output. And if you don't give it a lot of information up front, then it just doesn't work very well and it doesn't know how your coding style works, how your product works. So the more information you can give it up front is always better. But if you're starting off from step zero, you're starting from scratch, you built the quick MVP, the customer said they want it. Now you kind of got to go into the next step where I don't know if it's quite ready for this yet. In the next couple of years, I imagine it'll do a lot better for these no code, non-technical founder people. Moral of the story is you can get that MVP out, and then if you've proven out the idea, I think it's still applicable. If you're non-technical, go find a co-founder who is technical, who can help you build it out. Go out and validate it, get the early customers, prove to the technical co-founder it's worth jumping on board, and you can take it from there. But now you don't have to waste your time or resources spending a ton of money on development of something that you have no idea if it's actually going to work because you haven't got it in front of your customers yet. Now you can pump these out very, very quickly within a matter of a couple hours to a couple days, depending on what you're working on. Some other use cases I use for Bolt and other tools like it, I love using them for landing pages. So I'll pump out very, very fast landing pages for paid ads we run on social media like Meta and LinkedIn for specific industries we're hitting. So if we're reaching out to chiropractors, I'll make an entire landing page for chiropractors, which to a design agency or internally used to take days, if not weeks, to make a good landing page. Now I can pump them out within a couple hours. And those are the landing pages I'll use for paid ads. We just ran another one a couple weeks ago for pest control companies. I'll include the website link in the description if you want to check out some of the work on how Bolt coded it up. All I did is I gave it basic prompts, and then once it produced the initial output, the initial website, I went through and I just gave it more prompts on exactly what I was looking for. So it doesn't do perfect the first time. You have to work with it. You have to understand that it doesn't have feelings. So you have to kind of be very, very direct. It's not always going to produce exactly what you want. And so you have to work on your language, on how exactly it's going to respond. But overall, just take some time, get used to it, and make sure that you're prompting it correctly. Because if you want to check out the website I built for pest control companies, it produces some pretty cool outputs within a matter of a couple hours. This is saving us personally hours and hours of work for our small team here at Interval, hours of work every single week when we use these kind of tools, and it is saving us thousands of dollars. We've hired designers in the past, we've hired marketing agencies, but now we can pump out some of these tools in a matter of a couple hours for $20 a month, which is just absolutely absurd that we can do so. And I think it's something that not a lot of business owners are actually taking their advantage of right now. Now, I want to jump over the episode. I've offered you a couple ideas on how you can get started quick, but let's say you don't even have any ideas. You don't know what business you actually want to get started in. You don't have any software ideas or physical products, anything like that. The other area you can take this age of AI is turn yourself almost into a marketing agency or a consultant. There's a lot of business owners right now who are 45 plus who run very, very successful and profitable businesses that could go and cut costs or at least optimize their operations by simply inputting a couple or using a couple AI tools inside of their businesses. Obviously, I can't list every single one. Every business is going to have different tools. Some areas, obviously, the one that Interval is trying to solve is accounts receivable. So you don't necessarily have to waste somebody's potential and a human's time to go out and reach out to customers who are overdue. That's what we're trying to solve at Interval. There's other AI tools out on the market right now that help with customer support, sales, day-to-day operations, invoicing. There's a million different categories of AI tools that have popped up on the market. But the issue for a lot of these business owners, especially older business owners, is they kind of like the dot-com burst right before it happened. They noticed it was a wave that they needed to ride, but they didn't necessarily know exactly how to ride the wave. So if you can hop in there as a surf instructor and show them how to ride that surfboard of AI, you can go in and make a lot of money. There's businesses who contact us all the time over at Interval when we set them up, and they ask us if there's other tools like ours for different operations inside of their business. And there are. But the issue is, if some of these businesses aren't the ones who are actually going through and implementing it, and they just have the tool, but they don't have kind of the white glove service of setting it up for everyone, these business owners get very, very confused and they're afraid of AI. If you can go in as even someone who is slightly above average on their knowledge of artificial intelligence and large language models, you can go in with just an above average understanding of it and go and teach these business owners where they can use it inside of their companies. They will pay you a lot of money, like a traditional consultant, to go and teach them these practices. Teach them how they can streamline their operations, cut costs, make things more efficient by using artificial intelligence. Recommend tools, cut deals with vendors of software companies. If you know 5 or 6 really powerful tools that apply to a certain niche that you're good at selling to, go become a partner of those software companies, get some kind of discount that you could pass on to your clients, go offer that white glove service, go offer that information you can share with them so they go to you whenever they have a question regarding AI. There's so much knowledge out on the internet and YouTube right now. So if you feel like you don't have that base knowledge and you don't have that understanding, go research it for the next month. Make it your religion, make it your schooling. Go and study it as you can. So then you can go and charge for your services around that area and go and consult for these businesses around the word of AI or artificial intelligence. I promise you, people are looking for it. I personally know 2 people right now who are doing this for local businesses around Salt Lake and Utah, and they are just booming right now. They go into industries where, like I said, it's around business owners 45 plus, 50 plus, who in the next 10, 15 years are looking to retire, but they want to up their game in the meantime. They are going in and teaching them these skills, even if they're very, very rudimentary, and they are making good money with it. So if you don't feel like you're somebody who wants to actually build out a tool yourself using artificial intelligence, Bolt, Replit, anything like that for your early MVPs, I highly recommend going in that kind of marketing/consulting strategy and charging for your services to teach business owners tools that they can use and also strategies behind artificial intelligence. It is a lot of money sitting on the table. Last segment I want to hit is for business owners themselves. If you feel like you are falling behind, like I just mentioned, you're one of these business owners who doesn't really understand artificial intelligence, you don't know where to apply it, you're afraid of it, there are certain red flags you need to watch out for. And I want to highlight 2 of them specifically. And I'm sure you've heard on the news or at some point reading into AI, there's this word that is very, very popular called hallucination. At the end of the day, all large language models are is you're giving it a bunch of inputs and it's producing outputs using complex algorithms and math. If you give it so much information over a period of time, it clutters it all together just like a human would. Our brains are very, very complex. We can't remember every single thing, and there's too much information that's being stored sometimes, and it forgets it and it makes things up. So you can do this experiment right now with Grok or ChatGPT or whatever large language model you prefer. You can go on and basically teach it things that are simply not true. I can go in, and if you use the right prompting, you could teach ChatGPT that 1 + 1 in fact equals 3. And of course, everyone knows it does not. You could teach it lies. And so what happens sometimes is when we are communicating with the large language model, its entire function or its entire goal is to make sure it's producing the output that we are hoping for. At the end of the day, it solves its issue or it solves its problem if it produces the output that its human counterpart is looking for. Where your caution has to be is if you go through and you give it enough prompting where you clearly want a certain answer, it will produce that certain answer. There's been famous studies or famous use cases where there was a Ford dealership and they had an AI chatbot on their website, and a customer prompted it in a way where they said, I will give you this entire Ford for, it was like $30,000 under asking price, something a dealership would never do. But the person prompted the AI and made it hallucinate into saying it would offer a discount that it wasn't approved to give. And they obviously had to refine that. So my one big piece of advice for anyone who is afraid of using AI inside of their businesses is make sure that whatever tool you're using, they have appropriate measures, whether you build it in-house or you outsource it to a team and that's their company. You have to make sure that they have prompting around it to make sure it can't hallucinate. There has to be very, very clear instructions and very, very clear pieces of code that is blocking it from doing any sort of hallucination or something that it's not supposed to, because you never want to offer something to your customers that isn't actually on the table. The second word of caution I would have is don't be the business owner who is so afraid of using AI that you're going to get left behind and businesses are going to start doing better than you because they're using artificial intelligence and you're not. They're optimizing their workflows, they're cutting costs, they're making things more efficient, they're getting things done quicker with artificial intelligence, and you're over here so stubborn that you are not willing to use it. If you are one of these business owners, start doing more research. Just like anything in life, I feel like if you have a better understanding of it, the more comfortable you are. If you step up and you're playing your first ever baseball game, you're going to feel very, very timid, or insert any sport that you're really into. Whatever time you stepped into the batter's box the first time, you're very timid. You think the pitcher's going to hit you. You're afraid to swing. You don't want to strike out. You don't want to make a fool of yourself. It's awkward. But as you take more and more repetitions, obviously it becomes more natural. You're ready. You can start swinging away. You start getting on base. Same exact concept with artificial intelligence. If you don't start making these repetitions, if you don't start taking these at-bats, you're never going to get in the swing of it. You're never going to understand it, and your business is going to fall behind. This is the way of the future. This is how you're going to cut costs. This is how you're going to improve operations. This is how you're going to drive more sales. Every single artificial intelligence tool in the market right now is going to provide you some value, assuming it works correctly. You have to be not afraid to use it inside of your business, or else you will get left behind. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, make sure to tune in next Friday for another killer episode. Yeah, this was a topic I was looking at for quite some time. I know it's a buzzword these days. I know AI can seem scary or it might seem overhyped, but I promise you it is the way of the future. You have to jump on it, whether you're starting a business inside of the artificial intelligence world yourself, or you're a business owner already operating, looking to try and improve. This is the concept you need to understand. Do more research, listen to more podcasts about it. I'll link a couple ones that really gave me some peace of mind a couple of years ago, and understanding the entire concept better. But with that being said, everybody, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.